Okay, Jerry, you can get started whenever. Oh, it looks like maybe Councillor Shipson's joining if we just want to give him a second.
There he is.
Hi, Councillor Shipson. We are ready to go whenever you are. Councillor Shipson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Okay, I'm just bringing up the agenda on the other laptop. It's slow as the dickens right now, so.
Yeah, once
Yeah.
you're ready to get the meeting started, we do have quorum, so whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Just thanks for your patience. Well, I have it on my phone too, so. If we can start, I have it on my phone. I can bring it up when it all clicks in. So. Okay. And since I am on two machines here, if I miss anybody, just shout if you have, or I'll look for your hands, okay? So, okay, call to order for the Attainable Housing Committee, April 26th. Call to order at 6 o'clock. Confirmation of agenda. Can I have a mover? Excuse me, I got sniffles, and a seconder, please. Yes, Holly.
Sorry, can we just change the resolution to be it resolved that the committee confirm the agenda as amended to include the presentation?
Sorry. Yes.
The presentation to item 7.2, the Institute of Southern Georgian Bay discussion, and I'll upload that with the meeting minutes.
Okay. So confirmation of agenda. Be it resolved that the committee confirm the amended agenda as presented to acknowledge NOLA's 7.2 slideshow about Institute Southern Georgian Bay. Mover and seconder again. Okay. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, that's carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest. If you have any, you can say it now or anytime through the discussion this evening. Item 4 is delegations. Delegations and presentations, there are none. Item 5 is adoption of minutes.
Martin, sorry, Councillor Shipson, Jerry had his hands up.
Oh, thanks.
Just to clarify, Charles Fernandez was asked to speak and he was not able to make it work tonight. He would be available for a future meeting, so I think that'll be something we can put onto a meeting in the future. Thank you.
Okay. My apologies. So 5, adoption of the minutes. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Carolyn, Jerry. Thank you. Be it resolved that the committee, any discussion? Seeing none. Be it resolved that the committee approved the minutes from the April 4th, 2023 Affordable Attainable Housing Committee meeting as presented. Again, any discussion? If none, I'll just say any opposed. Hearing no opposition, that is carried. So item 6, we go to the staff update, 6.1, 2023 committee meeting schedule. So I guess that's you, Holly.
Thank you through the chair. We just wanted to add this item to the agenda. We know that the 4th Tuesday of the month was maybe not ideal for everybody. So just looking for feedback on if there was a day or time that would work better for everybody to be in attendance. And if there is a day that works better, we can certainly change it, and I can just craft a resolution as the discussion goes along.
Okay, well, for me, it's usually pretty busy with council stuff, so I can make things work. So Nola, Carolyn, Muriel, what's good for you? Let's start with you guys for a time.
I think Monday or Tuesday is fast.
Okay, go ahead, Nola. Somebody's muted. They're all
Yeah,
muted.
sorry, Nola, we just didn't hear you. I think we had a bit of feedback if you just wanted to try again.
Well, Monday or Tuesday, yes, for me. Did you hear me? Okay.
Yep. Carolyn, how about you?
I think if it's in the evening, it really doesn't matter for me. I can make actually, I'm quite flexible. It doesn't really matter for about the most part. So.
Okay. We'll go down the line. Oh, thank you. Muriel, I know you're in the board and what have you too, and library board. So
yeah,
anything for you?
Thursdays. I had Tuesday blocked out in my calendar. So that's still a good night. I would suggest we not do Mondays just because there's too many holiday Mondays in the year.
Good point.
Yeah. And the third Thursday of each month is the library board meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, And what was the problem arising? That was.
So Martin, sorry, Councillor
Yeah.
Shipson, through the chair, you didn't ask me. Tuesdays are not good for me. I can only
No.
do Wednesdays. If it's the last Tuesday of the month, it's not good for me because I do work at that time. Wednesdays is fine because I do have council and everything. So I'm always free on a Wednesday because I make myself available. So it would have to be Wednesday. The library board meeting is the third Thursday, which we attend. If it's going to be on a Tuesday, then it would preferably be not the last Tuesday, but the third Tuesday or something like that. But if it's the last day of the month in that week, then it would preferably be a Wednesday.
Okay. So that's Wednesdays would work for me.
For the month of May and right till June, Wednesday does not work for me.
What about the third Tuesday of each month?
The
If that
third
works,
Tuesday works. That works for me.
and if that works for Joan, I think the consensus is that would work for everybody else. It would work for me.
Jordan?
And if
Jordan, that's
if
okay
I'm
with
not
you?
around, Jerry, it'll work for you, right?
Yeah, I think we can make it work.
So
Yeah, the third Tuesday work for me.
What about Jordan? Did you weigh in yet?
We can't hear you, Jordan.
Yep, I'm good any day. Any day works for me.
Okay.
Testing. Hello?
We can hear you
we can
now,
hear you.
Jordan.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, any day works for me.
Well, Holly, I think you have your answer that Tuesday.
Yeah, so just if I can read the resolution and then if just make sure we're all on the same page, and then we'll just need a mover and a seconder. So be it resolved that the Affordable Attainable Housing Advisory Committee meet the third Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. electronically, with the exception of December, starting on Tuesday, May 16th, 2023.
Okay. Any discussion on that? John?
Sorry, no discussion. I'll move it.
Oh, okay. And do we have a seconder then?
Muriel.
Nope, thank you. Don't see Muriel here. That's good. Any opposition? Seeing none, excuse the phones. That will be carried. So moving on to 6.2, 2023 Canadian Rural Housing and Homelessness Symposium verbal update. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, through the chair. So I just wanted to provide an update. At the last committee meeting, the committee had appointed or said that NOLA would be attending this discussion. And so I have provided, or I have registered you NOLA, and just wanted to provide an update to the committee that has been completed. And you should be receiving an email in the near future, if you haven't already, from the people that are putting on the symposium.
I've received confirmation, and the whole event has gone online. It's no longer a hybrid event. So that's in June. It's the beginning of June.
Okay, great. Any more discussion on that? Nola, you're looking forward to it? Being virtual?
I am.
Good. We're going to be looking for a little report from you. I hope it goes well. Moving on, number 7, new business. 7.1, public information campaign update and discussion with Jordan. The floor is yours.
All right. Hey, everybody. So I did some planning for this, and I decided I would need some more feedback from the group as a whole before I created anything more substantial. So first, I just wanted to provide a bit of a basis of what we accomplished at the end of last year for committee members who weren't a part of that group, and then just kind of what I'm thinking moving forward, and then looking for some feedback. So the document we created last year, it provided a basic kind of landscape surrounding the local need for affordable housing and affordability, using statistics to inform anyone who might not be aware of this of the situation. We felt it was important to use statistics from reputable organizations, so they could be credited, and we weren't just making this stuff up ourselves. This is a real issue that other people are experiencing. And we also look to highlight the work done by the committee across the past term and outline the upcoming plans for the committee at the time. So the purpose of the document was basically just to inform the public and other relevant parties. I know we wanted to have a document available for anyone involved in the fall 2022 municipal election to inform them of the work done by the committee in the previous term, as we were looking to keep this committee going this year. And then we also had copies available for any members of the public interested at the Dundalk Fall Fair, and I believe the Seniors Health Fair that took place fall 2022. So the document was accompanied by a poster board, which relayed the same information, as well as some graphics, just dealing with affordable housing content. So we still have this original document, and it can be updated. I'd be happy to update it kind of on a monthly basis with the content that we're going over in our meetings. But in addition, I wanted to bring forth the idea of any further communications projects that are aligning with our kind of group objectives. And I was looking to get some feedback from the committee on that. I think what makes the most sense is if we're looking at the goals we've identified so far in this term, and then developing communications to assist us in achieving those goals, however that may look. So as I was planning, I think 3 main actionable items we've discussed so far are 1, the development of a nonprofit housing corporation in collaboration with other local municipalities. 2, working with local developers and the township to increase housing accessibility or promote it in some way from the work that we're doing in the committee. And then 3, as discussed in the last meeting, utilizing the Federal Housing Accelerator Fund, I believe it's called. So to start, I think we should just identify one of these. We can work at all of them at some point, but I think we should identify one, outline the objective we're looking for, whether it's to inform people or if it's to encourage some further type of action, and then identify the audience we want to reach. So I'll open the discussion to the group and ask for any feedback around that, and what kind of communications piece we would think would aid our goals in that way.
Jerry?
I'm thinking about statistics that maybe we need updated statistics. I'm not sure how we get them, other than maybe contacting our local social services groups, such as Community Health Center, Food Bank, and so on, anyone who's working in social services in the area. It would be nice to have as up-to-date statistics as we can. I actually learned earlier this week, and it shouldn't have been a surprise, but there's an encampment now on the edge of Collingwood. We know that there's been encampments in Owen Sound, and it sort of begs the question, how long will it be until there's one in Southgate or in various places in Southgate? And maybe, in fact, they're already here. If we look, here's a little exercise. How many people would we think in Southgate would be either unhoused or inappropriately housed or on the edge of being homeless? And if we look at that as sort of the qualifier for a number, I don't know what that number is, but yes, Nola? Go ahead.
I think this is a really good approach. The actual stats, I will be talking about some of that in the presentation on the Institute, and some of the data that they have already acquired shows that for Grey County, and I do think we have to look at the county as well as municipal thing, but for Grey County, they call an affordable unit, by our definition of 30% of your income, being something $800 a month. And so you think about that and then apply that to your question that you just posed to us. So they actually have numbers that their shortfall of 4,200 units for Grey County, with 3,700 households in our community unable to afford a monthly housing cost of more than $800 a month. So that there it is right there. And that probably doesn't even take into account your homeless people. They've already fallen through and crashed onto the bottom. There's nothing really supporting them. And just an aside, your hunch that dealing with frontline agencies to get the data is the only way we're going to get a handle on this. They're the only ones that have that level of confidentiality that would be able to impart that. They're dealing with them day in and day out. And just in casual conversation from somebody in the county, like Dufferin Wellington, a social worker, he says, yeah, you have homeless people here. You have people couch surfing, living in their cars, and it's around you. It's all around you. Just don't see it. It's not in your face, but it is here. And they're dealing with this all the time. And so those are the ones that have already fallen through. And that's not the people that are actually in a house right now, but in a precarious or in a rental unit that can't afford any kind of disruption, like where they come in and they say, we're going to renovate and make this unit a better unit, and now they're going to be priced out as a result. So I think your question is a good one, and I think the situation is critical, and I think we have to behave in that way. So I'll be talking to some of this stuff in the presentation I do. So, and in terms of Jordan's question about communication, I think we have to do all things at the same time. We have to have all the plates spinning. We have to communicate to people the urgency of this, and we have to collaborate like we've never done before. And we've been invited, I have been invited into the Institute's a meeting tomorrow that they're having with the Social Finance and Housing Committee, where they're looking at creative ways of generating money. So we're kind of invited in to that group now. And this is the kind of thing we have to do. We have to work together now, and because individually we're too small. And we do have to work with developers, and we do have to do all the other stuff, but we have to be creative about it. So those were really good questions that you posed. Sorry.
Go ahead, Jerry.
I was just going to say that based on a casual contact with Jeff Van Giem from Community Health Center at a Good Food Box Distribution, we had arranged to meet just in a casual way of starting to take a look at sustainability among social services. And so I'm actually meeting with Jeff tomorrow morning. And so I can use that as an attempt to start to gather some local data and sort of see his take on how do we put together all of the information, not just from Community Health Center, but from Food Bank, from Canadian Mental Health Association, anybody who's working in the area, so that we have sort of a broader, more detailed picture of what's going on. The other thing that I have sort of in the works is I met with Sylvia, and I can't recall her last name now, but she works for the Lutheran Housing Group. They run St. Francis Place in Owen Sound, and also an apartment complex in Hanover. And it was after the meeting that Carolyn and I had attended in Owen Sound. I followed up with Sylvia. Sylvia, I've known her for years, but I've never really had a lot of contact. And long story short is that after a few minutes of conversation, she said she would see if there's a chance, she would bring it up at their next meeting of the Rebound Owen Sound Group, who sponsored the meeting that Carolyn and I went to. And see about it inviting me to their group that meets in Owen Sound. So again, I think if we can be part of some of the groups that are going on already dealing with these issues, there's no point of us trying to recreate anything if we can borrow and beg and steal ideas from other groups. So anyway, that's what I'm up to. So.
Sounds good, Jerry. With the Housing Commission, I guess I should talk to the CAO and see how that's going with the other two communities that had that presentation. Right now, it seems to be just sitting in the water. So maybe we can get a fire under that again and go from there. Now we need to know where land is in the township too. I don't think there's much in town, if you're looking at building or own. Holly, go ahead.
Sorry, if I can just provide an update. At the last meeting, Clinton did mention that he would be bringing a report forward in May on the available land in the township. So you should be seeing that at the next meeting. Just, I know you weren't in attendance, so I just wanted to give you a quick update.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, so that's where we'll have to look, excuse me, for any building going on that the township could provide for affordable housing.
Further, Martin,
go ahead, Jerry.
Further to Jordan's outline, I'm just wondering about like the social media side of things. I will show my age by talking too long about social media, and you'll soon understand that I don't know much about it. But I understand it's a real thing, and I understand that we probably should be using social media where we can. So whatever we decide to distribute to the public, I think we need to try to use those means as well, all means available to us.
Sounds good. And I guess through that, we could, social media, if we have our own page or whatever you call it, we could ask for opinions and surveys through there too. You know, if the admin sees anything not right, then they can close it down, but that might be, does that work that way, Jordan? If we like the admin, I'm with Jerry. I'm a dinosaur when it, my daughter set me up the accounts I had, and I didn't even know she set me up 2 other accounts. She just wanted to steal my farm animals when she had a game going on. Thanks. So, so I'm kind of dead in the water for social stuff. So would that be a good way to do things, Jordan?
Yeah, I think we could definitely, there's lots of options to get the content we decide is important out there. I think we would just want to first build the product and then see how we want to share it. But we got lots of options to share it throughout the community, however we see fit.
Okay. Yeah, Carolyn, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, like, going back to Jordan's question about the audience, I think that part of my, that leads to another question is what would be the purpose of communicating? And so are we just putting information out, or are we looking for people to join us in partnership? And I think that would help us decide, what we should be communicating in terms of that. If it's just that there is a group and this is what we're working on, this is what we're doing, then that's one thing. But if we want it to action something in return, then I'm just wondering what we would hope to see from our communications to the general public, as opposed to, like, Jerry and Nola, you've made other contacts with other agencies, so I could see that being a different type of communication. But just out to the general public, what would we want to see in return? Or is it just to let them know that that this is what we're working on, that the group exists and this is what we're working on?
Go ahead, Nola. Yep, go ahead.
I think Carolyn's right that there are 2 kinds of presentations. One would be to, the various institutions that need to be involved and invited in. And I think the public needs to be educated and invited into, because it's all of our problem. So I do think that there's a 2-pronged thing there that has to happen. That's just
in Jordan's work that he had done before about the information package under responsibilities. Number 5 was to promote awareness about the importance and benefits of affordable housing in a proactive manner to address some community attitudes. And I think that's one. Are we going to convince everyone? Is that our goal, is to convince everyone that housing is an issue? No, I don't think so. But are we going to try to clear up some misconceptions about housing and about why we should be worried about housing for everyone? So I think that should be one of our goals again, and it also is one of the responsibilities we took on last session that made its way into this report that Jordan put together.
Okay, Nola, go ahead.
I think that people need to be aware that there's a whole group of people that can't, like your workers of your community, can't afford to live in your community anymore. And that's a huge problem in terms of the viability and sustainability of a community. And that's why it's everyone's problem. So, and that is not just happening here, it's happening right across Canada. But the thing is, I don't know, I think one of the strategies of this institute was to have regular town halls and make it free and invite people in. So it's not that you're going to convince everybody, but they had the regularity of those meetings, and people could come and slowly get a grasp of the size and magnitude of this problem. And so, and I also think there's the perception problem is about the homeless people and homeless encampments, totally separate from people that are working and can't afford and don't have a house. They're two separate issues. So I think that's two separate strategies.
Through the
Joan?
chair, yeah, thank
Yep.
you, Martin. Thank you, Jordan, for this report. I think it's a great report and you did a really good job on it. I also think that it's good for us to collaborate with all the region in Grey Bruce, Owen Sound, and see what they're doing and get their input and stuff. But as a small group and we're new and coming out in this, there is a lot happening in Southgate or in Dundalk that a lot of people don't know about. And I think that's where we should start our concentration before we go outside of our boundaries, so that we can better assist a lot of people that are couch surfing, that are homeless, that are sleeping in their vehicle, that a lot of people don't know about. I mean, for myself, being in the community, being in the new subdivision, seeing the rent going up and seeing what is happening, there is a lot that is going on that we probably need to take a little step back and do a lot here locally, but still collaborating and getting to know what they're doing and get some of their ideas and see how we can fix it into our township and get that going.
Yeah, that's a good point, Joan, because really when you look at the township, it was Dundalk that was incorporated by itself. Then there was Proton and Egremont, and when they amalgamated it years ago, they did that because Dundalk was the main center, and now, as you say, it's becoming really the main center. You have the other biggest settlement area, like they like to call it, or town, is Holstein, and they certainly don't have the growth that we're having. And the settlement area in the middle is, quite frankly, the Mennonites, and they basically look after their own. So if there's anything to be done, maybe Dundalk would be the one, because that's where any land is going to be coming from, if there's any surplus. So with that two-pronged problem that Nola's mentioned, it would work best in Dundalk. And then that will trickle down to other places in the township. So Jerry, go ahead.
Oh, just at the last meeting, Clinton brought up about a triangular piece of property in Holstein that might lend itself to building as well. So I don't think we ignore the other parts of the the municipality. It is a complex, there's so many directions that need to be dealt with. So anyway, but certainly the biggest bang for the buck perhaps is in Dundalk because of the population at this. Certainly I agree with Joan on that. So
yeah, Nola, go ahead.
I agree that Dundalk would be the most logical, for any of the assisted kind of supportive housing, because people need to be able to walk to get groceries and all those other amenities, and they can't be isolated where they have no transportation. I have a question. Like, you have about 1,000 units being built. Where are those people coming from? And like, what is your town going to change totally in its nature? And like that development is amazing. So where are they coming from? Toronto? Are they working in this area? I just don't know.
Clinton's on there. Clinton?
Well,
Clint,
just before you go, Clint, I could answer part of that. I know for sure that most of them are coming from the GTA, Scarborough, Etobicoke, Markham. That's the bulk of and Clint can probably elaborate on that some more.
I don't need to elaborate too much because that was an excellent summary. About 95% are from the GTA area. Mm-hmm. There's very few. I know of a few examples that are locals that bought in early into some of the homes, or have actually use them as income properties where they purchased them and are now renting them out, which is not really what we want to have, because that just facilitates these false super high rents. But for the most part, they're everything from Brampton, Markham, the Etobicoke, as was mentioned. So they are a diverse group from the south.
Yeah, that's about it.
And they're also coming into rural, expecting urban.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a big
Yeah,
problem.
you
too.
have one grocery store there. There's one grocery store for the town, right? I think.
And there
so
used to be
far.
3, so go figure.
Yeah. I just I thought the developer, I listened to that council meeting, and I thought the developer was really excellent in terms of wanting to respond to the request for higher density. So I think that component is like those people, like that's taken care of. So I think we're talking about a housing mix for something referred to as the missing middle, those people that don't make that kind of money that the people would be making coming in from, you know, the GA and Brampton and things like that. So again, your workers. So
Jerry,
that's
then
a huge
Carolyn.
concern.
Just before the committee was established, in conversation with a local resident, we talked about the need for housing and how many units would be needed. So we were just sort of imagining at that point, and we said, well, 100 units would be nice to have 100 units like tomorrow, 100 units. Well, the further into our conversation, we began to realize that if people are paying higher rents, and they are now in the subdivision, and there is an opportunity to pay a lower rent, as we're hoping there would be with enlarged housing option, apartment buildings and semis and more dense areas, then how many units are we going to need? Because people would like to move from a higher rent into, which is human nature. Of course they would. But then how many units do we really need? It's a lot more than 100 probably. So.
Yep, Carolyn, go ahead. And I have a question after.
So I know we've talked around, and this might not be what you're thinking for communication at all, but I'm wondering if there's, there's certainly a communication that a committee exists, but I wonder if, and what we're doing, but like coming up with some of our goals are very, very long-term, right? And they require other partnerships to happen. So I'm wondering if there's even just a media blitz or some communication around demystifying homelessness and taking some numbers. So Nola, you said $800. So before the last meeting, I did an Excel sheet, which I can't find right now. Here it is, where I just took, if a household is making $100,000 together, then they could afford $2,500. If they're making 30, they could afford $750, just doing the math, and then plug some mortgages into just a bank calculator for mortgage, right? Just randomly. And really, even a mortgage of $400,000 is going to be $2,277 a month. So I think there's a demystification there in terms of when you actually look at numbers, you have to have probably either 2 solid incomes rather than one coming into a household, even to deal with some of the numbers we're dealing with. So just demystifying who is homeless or who is underhoused or who is couch surfacing might be helpful just in terms of changing attitudes. And the other question I wondered about, and this might have no effect at all, but going back to those secondary units, like I wonder if in conjunction with town staff, like I wouldn't want to put anything out there that is false, but whether in conjunction to that, I don't know if anybody's thought about a secondary unit in their house or renting a room in their house and what that might look like. And that would both provide a lower rental, but it also provides income for that house owner, and whether planting some seeds around communication that way might be helpful to meet some immediate need. I do think it's a supply and I do think it's a supply and demand issue. So as we create more rental spaces, then people will not be able to charge as much because there'll be more competition for them, right? And stuff like that. And if we can create a bigger supply in that missing middle, then that might alleviate some of the pressure on the other sides. I don't know. Anyway, I was just going back to Jordan's question about who our audience was and what we wanted to do with that. So, you know, is it broad communication about this is what we're looking on long term, or do we want to put out some blitz, some social media, demystifying homelessness or under housing? I don't know, but that was just some random thoughts.
Okay. Muriel, go ahead.
You're
Unmute.
muted.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like what Carolyn was saying, because I think some maybe short information pieces would be really helpful. And one of them could be how to have a second unit in your home, or in terms of legalities, because that's all changed or changing. But also if there's any funding available. And I'm not really clear on what that might be, but different places have had funding available. There's also the income tax return in terms of like seniors and accessibility costs. But there might be different programs around that we could explore, but also just to make people aware that what can be possible, or how to get a person, like how to maybe that's something we could do, or borrow from somewhere else to get a process that's safe for people, in getting, having someone else coming into your home. Like there are home share programs, but I don't think we're talking that right now. We're just talking about possibilities for people to explore. So I think information pieces would be good. Intensification being one of them. And even the concept of tiny homes, that is a legal possibility now, right?
Yep, I think so.
Like and whether or not people realize that or not, I don't know. But even, and also, I mean, the fact that there is homelessness in Dundalk or Southgate is something people don't know necessarily. I think I was talking to someone last week at the library board, actually, at the library, and she had no idea there were people living in their vehicles periodically, or certainly couch surfing people. They're not visible at all to us. We wouldn't have any idea of the numbers there.
Mm-hmm. So really, basically, with that two-pronged communication, we need to communicate to the general public there's a problem, and then communicate to the developers, to Grey County, to the groups that Jerry and Nola said they have access to now. Talk to Homes for Humanity, or whatever that, Habitat for Humanity. And that can come about from where we learn what kind of surplus land there is in Holstein or wherever. So I think that two-prong will have general public and really focus on people that could actually do something.
Yeah.
So maybe, Carolyn, go ahead.
And I think there's a resort, I think there's a resource in those secondary units, right? So I don't know that people would know that there's agencies you can hire to vet someone. You don't just have to put an ad in the paper and hope you're renting to the right person. And you can rent a room in your house, even with your current insurance. And, especially if someone's trying to stay in their home, and that might be income that they're willing to do. I think especially in the newer homes where there's bathrooms attached to every bedroom, right? Like that's I don't know. I just think it might help. It might put a seed in people's, we might help people find their own solutions or or help them realize that there's ways to break down some of the barriers that they might think are too much.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Question for Clint. Clint, is there any way the municipality can help with the secondary units? Is there any costing that could be forgiven? Is there any way that that we could encourage this? Because it is a way, like it is a way of getting units in a faster way than working towards the development of affordable housing. But
as far as forgiving fees and things like that, I doubt council would be interested in doing that, only for the sake of it's a direct budget hit onto something like the building department or something like that. Certainly we've already begun reaching out to developers to notify them of the idea that you guys brought up about designing their models or their homes with one sort of roughed in or contemplated so that they leave enough space for that extra parking spot, which is required for all of these new units. You have to have an extra spot for that new unit. So we've asked them to do that, and we'll see what comes in once the next subdivisions come in, but we've asked them to look at that. The other thing is to get them to do it early, is because when you have a separate dwelling unit, you're required to have fire separations between floors from one apartment to the next. And if you do it as one home, you don't. And so, example, your ceiling in the basement might be only a half inch of drywall that you've put up, but when you want to make that an apartment, all of a sudden you have to make that 5/8 or 3/4 of an inch, and so you have to rip your ceiling down and put up a new ceiling, which is costly. So by suggesting that they rough it in first, they do those steps first, and it adds value to the home as a ability for someone to come in and actually purchase it with the understanding that they're going to be able to, with a little input on their own part in terms of money, create another dwelling unit to support their income and help pay for the house, sort of thing. So that's the kind of thing we've been encouraging right now.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on that, if I may. That's something that when the builders are showing the homes, I imagine they have model homes down in the GTA, or however they sell it. That's a selling point to somebody to come up, buy the home, knowing full well that if it is roughed in, the builder will say it won't be as much a house to buy because your basement's not done. And somebody, they might like to, so yeah. Anyway, time moves on. Do you think, Jordan, you have enough to kind of?
Yeah, well, I made notes on the feedback from everybody. I think we're still focusing, from what I've heard, which I agree is informing people on, an array of topics and solutions that can help address this locally. So I'll take that back and work with the document we already have, add some updates, and look to incorporate some new updated local stats. And I'll distribute that prior to the next meeting so everyone can get eyes on that, and then we can continue to shape it as needed, and then maybe have more discussion on how we want to distribute it.
Okay, sounds good. Moving along, 7.2.
Martin, Procedural question. Once Jordan does a draft, circulates it, Holly, then what's next? What happens? Does it go to where? What happens?
Go ahead, Molly.
So just through the chair, once we have a draft, it'll come back to the next, like to a meeting for committee review and discussion. And then if it's approved, we'll do a resolution. And then in the resolution, it can just direct staff in the committee where they would like it. So if you do want it on the township website, Facebook page, that type of stuff. And then if you need any resources in terms of printing, we can take that to the resolution as well, just as direction for staff to be able to provide all of that to the committee. So we'll definitely see likely a draft, and Jordan, I'll work with you on agenda timelines and stuff. Just when you're ready, reach out to me and I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Someone would review the draft from staff. Would Dina or Lindsay or you or Clint? Does somebody review this before it goes out to the public?
Yeah, so definitely we can work collaboratively, committee members and staff, and then it would have to go for committee approval before. So yeah, I can work with Jordan and kind of have Lindsay and Clinton and Dina take a look at everything, likely even Bev, our chief building official, just to see if he has any input, and then it would come back to the committee for approval.
Okie dokie, sounds good. Jordan?
Yeah, sorry, I just had a question. I'm able to like share that with the committee through email, like content before next meeting, or does it all have to go through a meeting?
It would have to go through a meeting. Just if there was a discussion where a quorum of council or a quorum of the committee was involved, it would be considered an illegal closed meeting. So it would have to come to the committee. We don't have to approve it right away at the next committee meeting. If it is ready to go, then certainly we can. But if there are changes, then it can come back again. I mean, it can come back as many times as it needs to reflect the changes that the committee would like to see.
That's right.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
So let's move ahead. Jerry, we'll move ahead to 7.2.
Sure.
The Institute of South Georgian Bay discussion. Nola, I hope you have a lot in your slides.
So Holly, I think if you just put it up as it doesn't need to play as a slideshow, we'll just do one, let the slide sit static. And so thank you for letting me do this. This is something I enjoyed doing. And this institute has been in the game since 2015. That's why I think they hit the ground running when the pandemic hit, and they were able to get moving on the housing, the affordable, attainable housing thing so well. They have actually 4 objectives and goals, and I'm going to say it's this institute is a volunteer, not-for-profit think and do tank. So I think the good thing about that is that they've been able to pull together across all sectors, like to bring citizens in, to bring in different levels of government, to bring in all the different agencies, financial and developers, and bring everybody together to consult and collaborate on issues. And their 4 target areas are, they started with the Regional Arts Network because they believe that would bring vitality to their area, that if they seeded those things, that it would, bring economic vitality and vibrancy. Then they have another area of business and innovation. I think those 2 are kind of interrelated. And then in 2020, they got on this social finance and housing thing as a response to the pandemic. And I think it's because they already had some things happening that they've been so effective with this. And they're really well versed on it. And I don't think it's a case of the Township of Southgate giving up and sort of dropping its priorities. It's a case of they feel that the more you have together, like to collaborate and to consult, the bigger voice you have an aggregate. They consider themselves to be an aggregate of 100. They represent 100,000 people. And it's a case of rural municipalities, your weakness is your smallness, and to get the attention of you don't have the infrastructure of not-for-profits like a dense urban area has, or the developments that and all the other things that urban areas have. It's a very different game in a rural setting. And so I think that this is something that has been acknowledged here. And so it's a case of let's all work together, join arms, identify the problems and the solutions, and then share what we can, and even in terms of the resources and the development that's happening. So you're taking a bird's eye view of the situation, and there may not be something built in every municipality every year, but something will happen. It will happen in a more systematic fashion. That seems to be happening when I listen to the ROMA, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association Conference. That seems to be another strategy that's picked up by other counties as well. They're realizing the power of being a collective and speaking with one voice, but you're still distinct. And so they represent Southern Georgian Bay, Grey Highlands, Blue Mountains, Clearview, Wasaga Beach, Meaford, Collingwood, Owen Sound, Thornbury. So it's a real, and everything, they seem to be expanding because it's an all for one for all kind of an attitude. Let's get this thing taken care of. So that, like I said, we've now been invited in a little bit here. So I think we can benefit from their learning, which is their goal, is to help municipalities benefit from what they've learned. So if we go to the second slide, Holly, will it move? Will the next slide move? Oh, here we are. So it's volunteer. I think that's a lot of its success. It connects people and institutions, shares knowledge across sectors, and it can put a focus to whatever issue, but in this case, it's affordable, attainable housing. And they've done this. Their strategies have been by having bi-weekly meetings. The Social Finance and Housing Working Group, that's the one I'm going to be attending. They were just really gracious, immediately sent me the agenda and everything. Exploring access to capital and land options. They're creative about how to generate the capital. I don't know that I'm going to be able to absorb all this stuff. I think other people there's probably other minds on this committee that would be better suited to be on this kind of a working group. Inviting all sectors like residents, business, government, not-profit leaders to identify the housing stock required to ensure our communities are sustainable. They've held free online events and in-person events that anybody could attend, and this is where you get that involvement and participation with the general public, I think. They examine creative solutions by participating. They've had a National Housing Lab hosted by the Social Innovation Canada, so they're drawing in on the federal government level. They've drawn in on the provincial government levels. They've involved the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. They had a year-long UN Habitat in Town Summit in Collingwood. So they've really taken a deep dive here, and they are focusing attention on the tools, policies, and strategies available to small and medium-sized towns. And so this is where I think we benefit from their learning, and to address the situation. And they said they've actually come out and said that the current financialization of housing does not meet the needs of those who cannot afford current market prices. And I think this is the rub. This is the issue. And so I would think that if all those houses that are being taken residence by people from out of town, what happens to the people in town when those people force the housing prices up? So what happens to your people that you need to work in your area, and they're on minimum wage or just a bit above? So they are also exploring the creation of a community investment fund to support affordable, attainable housing. So then we'll go to the next slide. So they have created, as a result of their summits and all their input and their consultation, they've had developers, financial people in, they've had like so many people that they're involved in this consultation and the creation of this affordable housing toolkit. It's intended to help municipalities fill the need for what we're talking about tonight. And to meet that missing middle, which would be the people that can't afford even the down payment. I know you've talked about this on the committee before, but they can't even get a down payment together for a $400,000 house, of which the $400,000 house doesn't exist right now anyway. And so they recognize that to have workers for your key service industries in the region, you need to have housing for them. And the market, letting the market forces alone, that will not happen with that kind of strategy. And this is where they're saying counties and towns, municipalities do have the capacity and the ways and means to address this. And they've come up with some things for us to consider. The toolkit was just uploaded to the Institute's website in January of this year. And they have demonstrated that affordable housing is key to the continued viability of our towns. They've demonstrated that innovative approaches are needed, which they've listed a lot of them, which I don't even understand, and that the complexity of housing issues demands a cross-sectoral approach, which includes citizens be involved in the process, which speaks to what Jordan was saying, like we do need to get citizens involved in this. They also clarify, and I think this is an important point, and I know that you have mentioned this when you were putting out your call for people to be involved on this committee, that housing is a human right. And when you think about it, there's only 6 things people need. There are 6 things people need to survive, and housing is one of them. And I don't even know how somebody who's couch surfing would even begin to start looking for a job or hold down or do, start to fulfill their potential in life. So it's a critical thing, I think. They've also latched on to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, specifically the SDG number 11, which looks at sustainable communities. And they're thinking that we as rural communities need to develop our own roadmap for addressing affordable housing, climate change, transportation, and the protection of our natural and cultural assets to ensure the economic and social well-being of our towns. So this is, I think our economies here, I think you'd have to have agriculture in there, right? Like what are the main economies, the economic activities here? We would have some manufacturing, I would think, some industrial stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of it would be, you would also have the PSWs, the people in is there a lot of hospitality and tourism, retail tourism? There's definitely healthcare. But for those people, their wage is not tremendously generous. So I think that's a problem, because there's no housing for them. So if we go to the next page. And so these are the toolkit components. I don't think I'm going to read through them. I know that they identify they come up with a community challenge statement, which you can go in and look at on your own. They come up with definitions, which provides clarity. Their definition of affordable housing is the same one as we have for the Township of Southgate, which is that 30% should go to the rental or cost of housing. They have a whole presentation of addressing those attitudes of NIMBYism to YIMBYism. That's not the changing the not in my backyard to yes in my backyard, like that educational component. They have data. They have they've come up with something called the affordability matrix, which matches employment, like your wages, to the price that the adequate housing that's there. They really believe that the municipalities have a very important role, and they also believe in bringing in philanthropy to generate more capital, like investment funds, direct investments, and public equity. But the municipalities, they feel, have a tremendously important role, and that's who they want to support. They want to support all municipalities, and they want to elevate this topic in general, in a broad way, with the population. So there are some things that they talk about that I don't understand totally, like the leveraging capacity of public assets. So rural communities lack the dense infrastructure of nonprofits and charities that large urban areas have. But small municipalities are usually the largest holders of funds and other assets in the commons held on behalf of the community. So when municipalities collaborate and build relationships with nonprofit, business, and philanthropic sectors, opportunities can arise to address this if this becomes important. There is a social finance primer for communities, which is really detailed. I'm not going to go into that because I couldn't. And then they have 13 social finance strategies. Again, these are things that, for not my mind anyway, for other people to get involved with. So I will tap into that meeting tomorrow because they were so welcoming. But I think somebody else with that can make better use of that knowledge probably would benefit from seeing what they're up to, because they are pretty creative. And so the key takeaways for municipalities, basically download that toolkit. They're going to be doing, they're starting their next wave of meetings, like public meetings, and to inform and help municipalities understand how to use this toolkit. They're basically putting out their arm and saying, let's learn and act together. And they want every municipality to have the tools it needs to create adequate affordable housing for all residents according to their income, and that anybody that works in an area can find housing and thrive in an area. So they have a lot of tips and tricks up their sleeve that they use, and they're certainly good at consultation and collaboration and bringing all different sectors together. The last page, basically, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but they talk about community wealth building. This is something they're big on, that they define wealth as well-being for all, and they talk about harnessing the power of people in place to address the social, environmental, and economic well-being of people and communities. So they talk a lot about social procurement, that municipalities should be doing things where they're keeping, like, I think they 65 cents of every dollar spent in the community, instead of, that outward flow of revenue out of the community. So, there's some what if questions that have been posed. What if every dollar we spend, lend, or invest contributes to making our local communities better, more vibrant? What if our businesses, governments, and large institutions were intentionally involved? And what if affordable housing is viewed as the key to the continued viability of our towns? And then they talk about the innovative approaches which they have. And I think that's where you have to kind of be involved. And it would be my intent I've already registered for a May 3rd event where they're launching the toolkit. And what I'm attending tomorrow is one of the subcommittee things on the financialization of housing. And these people are on the move. They are, and they're sharing. They're all about sharing and collaborating. So I'm thinking this is something that it would benefit. We'd benefit from the ideas that they're generating and the learning that they're generating. I think that's it, unless you have any questions of me. But the fact that they're a volunteer group, I think, is significant, because it allows them to speak with a different voice. It allows them access to grant money that municipalities wouldn't have access to. Like, they've done some pretty amazing stuff. They have set up something called an endowment fund, a $1 million endowment fund, which the interest from that is like $50,000 a year. And they use that for seed money to go back into, and they share it around into different sectors, different communities. But they're a rolling stone gathering moss and generating learning and knowledge as they go along. So I don't know if you have any questions, but I'm happy to go and see what I can learn. But I don't think I'm the best person for the finance committee, but I will go and build some relationships. And I will also go to their launch of the toolkit, because the toolkit is a lot of stuff there. And again, all the strategies they talk about go over my head, but they got strategies. So thank you for letting me.
No, that's great. Maybe we should all look at that toolkit when you said it's on the website now, right?
It
The toolkit?
it was uploaded in January. It's
Yeah,
there,
fine.
but
Yeah.
it is dense. It's got a lot there. I don't know, maybe Clint would be the best. I don't know who's got that mind that could go in there and look at the terms and things that they're talking about. But they're all about being creative and innovative and
Well,
pulling in.
I think if everyone takes a gander at that, we all have our own views on things. I think we'll all get some nuggets out of it. So I think it should be a good thing to look at. Jerry, go ahead.
Nola, is there a cost to belong to the Institute of South Georgian Bay?
No, what they do is they use on their website, you'll see, actually, this is brilliant. They make money by inviting people to become patrons and just because they want things to be free for people to attend. And so it's like for people who want to use that, like donate something, you can, and they have different levels of donations, but that's by choice. And that's by, there's obviously a lot of people on that institute that have a tremendous amount of expertise and knowledge. They're retired. A lot of them would be maybe the retired head of United Way for the county, that kind of thing. We're talking about people with a lot of experience and expertise, and now they're coming together in this way, because they've moved to this realm and they're really concerned.
I would suggest, Nola, that you among our committee members are knowledgeable about the Institute of South Georgian Bay, and I would suggest that you continue your involvement, unless anybody wants to arm wrestle you for it.
I don't think I think it's anybody who's interested. Like I think they're just really open. Like it was like open arms. Yeah, come on in, and no questions. They're not. I think that's the right attitude to have, and I think their strategy for communicating by having those regular meetings and things like that has been really effective, and they're very serious about getting this. This toolkit out to be used, because they have, I see on the package that they sent to me, there's a deputation list and where everybody has signed up to go out to different organizations and municipalities to present the toolkit. So they're all out there. It's like they're working this. They're out there doing presenting. So they could present. We could ask for a presentation on a specific aspect to the township. Like they're presenting to Owen Sound, they're presenting to different government groups, different for-profit developers. They're out there. Like, man, these guys are working this thing, and they're moving into the next implementation phase. So, okay. I find that their attitude is quite zealous. They're serious.
Muriel, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I've attended a couple of their conference type online events, and I'm totally impressed with them too, but I can't say I understand everything that they're doing, and that like I'm very interested in the social finance stuff, but I don't understand how they get the money at all. But the
I'm
last
with you,
thing,
Muriel.
pardon me?
I'm with you. It's like, woo.
Yeah, it's gone around me so far, but I've only glanced at the toolkit. I need to go back and look at some more at it. But the last thing I attended online was an international conference. So they had speakers from around the world, from different countries, and it was on housing, and there was an environmental theme to it as well. But some of it was interesting to me, some of it wasn't. but I really think they're a group to follow, if not be directly involved with. But I think that'd be great to have a speaker from there too, if we can get that.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea sometime in the future to get a person coming in to do a presentation. So any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move forward to 8, correspondence. Is there anything there that anybody wants to pull to have in the minutes to discuss? Jerry,
Only 8.1 York Region Housing Solutions. I came across this.
Are you pulling it, Jerry, or you just want to talk
Okay.
about it?
What does
We
that
don't
mean?
pull anything, do we, Holly? Go ahead, Holly.
So just if you were wanting to make a resolution of support about something, we would pull the item and then have a separate resolution. If it's just a general discussion, we don't need to do that. We would just need a mover and seconder to discuss for information, and then the committee's free to discuss the items as they'd like.
Okay,
So I only have one. I have one comment. So do we need a motion?
If we can just get a mover and seconder to put the items on the floor, and then the committee can discuss.
Carolyn, Jordan, be resolved that the committee received the items of correspondence dated April 26, 2023 as information. Nobody opposed. Well, that's carried. So go ahead, Jerry.
Okay, York Region. They have a 10-year housing plan. I would encourage people just to glance through it. If you don't have the time to read the whole document, but glance through the executive summary. This is an area, I know it's larger than what we're dealing. I understand that, but they have a 10-year plan. And I spoke to a program manager for the region of York, in charge of education and training. And that person told me that in spite of the fact that they have a 10-year plan that they're continually updating and they're working towards as a plan, they're using it and it's guiding their actions, they still aren't keeping up with the situation. So I guess the message simply is this, that the sooner we can get started, the better. That's all, Martin.
Yep, that's great. Anything else on 8.1, 8.2? Seeing none, we'll move ahead.
Check
9.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
For the Echo Park, I'm not pulling it or anything, but I'm just encouraging everyone to watch the video if they can, because I did watch it and it's very interesting. From ineffective to effective. So it's really, thanks, Muriel. Yeah.
That's great. We will do that if we haven't already. So 9 is next meeting to be determined. Go ahead, Holly.
Just given the conversation that we had for the new meeting schedule, the next meeting would be on Tuesday, May 16th, 2023 at 6 p.m. and it would be electronic through Zoom. And I will update all of the calendar invites to reflect the change in the date. So likely tomorrow, if you just want to stay tuned and accept those as they come in, that would be great.
Okay, sounds good. All righty. Number 10 is the adjournment. Thank you, Nola, for the presentation. And I have been looking at some of the where it says click here and the Eco Spark. I want to have a look at that again. The York region, we've talked about the financialization of housing. I think that might have something to do with it. York Region 1 too. So a lot of things to look at. So adjournment, be resolved that the committee adjourn the meeting at 7:18. And I don't need a mover and seconder for that, do I? Be resolved that mover and seconder, please. Carolyn and Muriel. Be resolved that the committee adjourn the meeting at 7:18. All in favor?